What's up, you guys? Welcome to today's video. As you can tell by the title, we're going to be talking about Arkansas versus New York drug culture. So this video was actually recommended to me on Instagram, where I sometimes poll you guys over there and ask you guys what you want to see. So this suggestion actually came up a few times, and I feel like you've asked me this several times in the past, and I just never made a dedicated video on it. Now, before we get started, I just want you guys to know I'm not glorifying or glamorizing that life. Now, there are some funny moments in my comparison of New York versus Arkansas culture. This was just really shocking to me, and some of the stories are going to be lighthearted because there's no way around it. Some shit that I saw was just funny. Now, drug addiction is not funny at all, and as a recovering addict with 8 years of sobriety, I cannot stress enough the importance of recovery and the importance of getting out of that lifestyle. That being said, it is my hope that in sharing my story, more people will feel less alone, and this channel will inspire them to seek recovery, whatever that means for that person. Now, in my personal opinion, recovery is relative. It's not a one-size-fits-all thing, and there are so many different paths to sobriety. So, without further ado, let's go ahead and get started. Now, for those of you that do not know my story, I was an addict and a dealer in New York. I think the crazy thing is I wasn't miserable right away. I thought I was having fun. I thought I was making money. I thought that this was the key. And now keep in mind, I was very, very young. At 13, 14, when I dove into this lifestyle, I thought this was so cool, and I really did glamorize it. I thought, why should I work, 40, 50, 60 hours a week and still be broke? Like, I can't live that way. And never did I think that way, working hard for your money, is the best way, and it comes with peace of mind and job security and freedom. I never thought of it that way. I grew up really glamorizing the lifestyle. I grew up glamorizing the money, and I was really poor. My hometown is severely below the poverty line, and I saw every family that I knew struggle to make ends meet. We didn't have food growing up. I didn't have nice shoes. I didn't have nice clothes. I barely had clothes. I mean, I just had nothing growing up. And that kind of ebbed and flowed. That came in waves, but we were getting evicted all the time. I was always moving around. You guys did see my hometown tour video, but that was just one of the towns that I lived in. I was bounced around all over upstate New York, and that was really tough for me. It was tough for me to adjust. So there's nothing cool about this, but to get back on track with the comparison of New York versus Arkansas is in New York, if you're going to buy dope from someone, drugs from someone of any kind, you always come with cash. Now, this was just a known thing. I never had people, sometimes, but it was pretty rare that I had people come to me and try to pawn me a cell phone or a TV or stolen property. If property was stolen in New York, this was just my experience. If property was stolen, that was sold to someone else, and you don't go to your dealer with pawned, stolen shit. Like, that's just not a thing. It is in Arkansas. And I think I saw a lot more theft, a lot more risk-taking, a lot more vandalism, a lot more stolen property and pawning in Arkansas than I did in New York. In Arkansas, in my personal experience, in the circle that I was involved in, everyone is trying to pawn something that they took from someone, or they're trying to break into houses and rob houses. And it was just crazy to see the difference. I did sell methamphetamine in Arkansas, and people were always trying to come over with a TV or cell phones or Xbox or whatever. And at one time that almost got me kidnapped. We will get there in a second though. I want to tell you guys the story about a TV. And this was something I never experienced in New York. People always came to me with money, with cash. I was in Arkansas, and I was with baby daddy at the time. We were in his parents' house. Now, we had a couple of trap houses around Fort Smith, places that we would go to sell, but in this story, we were in his parents' house, and someone had come to his window to buy dope. And that made me crazy. I didn't like him selling there, and I pushed him to get the trap houses so that we were away from his parents. That made me very nervous, not only for our own safety because we were living there full time, but also for his parents, and I just didn't want it in his parents' house. That was really difficult for me, and that was a constant fight with him. It was probably 2 o'clock in the morning, and one of our clientele, he comes to the house with a big screen TV. Now, baby daddy does not want this TV coming in through the front door because it might wake up his parents. You guys, they put it through the window. And I'm like sitting in this room completely embarrassed. I'm like, are you serious? Oh my, imagine driving by this house and seeing two people try to maneuver a big screen TV into a bedroom window. Why? It would be so much faster and quieter if you just walked it in the front door or the back door. Like, but come on, the window, the bedroom window. So I was just like mortified, you know, I'm not partaking in this. I'm just sitting in the corner of the room, embarrassed. Like, what? Why? So for me, I was like, no. Cash, bro. You gotta have cash. We're not taking a big screen TV that you probably just stole from someone's house. Like, that's possession of stolen property. No. And baby daddy was like, I'll take the TV. And I'm like, oh my God, why? Like, can we have a united front here? Like, can you just pretend to agree with something that I say? So that was like so frustrating for me, but this would happen all the time. Now, I said New York runs on cash, and this is just a difference in chemicals. If you were on H, you were gonna be really, really sick, and people will do anything to get that money, which is another reason why I tell you guys, if your loved one is struggling with addiction, do not give them money. Don't do that. If they need groceries, go buy them groceries. You know, if you wanna help them in that way and still be financially active in their life, if they need help, buy them the groceries yourself. I strongly advise against giving active users cash. But that's just my personal opinion. You know your loved ones better than I do. I just wanted to throw that in. So they run on cash in New York. Arkansas was so different. So at any given time, people that I was running with had these like bins full of cell phone cords, all these things. And it was like, it was the craziest thing. And this was every single person that I knew that was on that substance in Arkansas. They were tweaking on stuff. They would take things apart and they would spend hours and hours and hours doing something that was completely pointless in my opinion, like taking cell phones apart. Now, the first time that I had seen that, I was like, whoa, you're gonna break that. That's broken. And a lot of times the people that I would see taking things apart, whether it's TVs, Xboxes, cell phones, cars, and we'll get there, it made me really nervous because I'm like, this is broken. Like, you just fucking broke that, dude. But the only person that I saw that was actually able to take something completely apart and then put it back together was baby daddy. There were some times where that didn't work out, but more often than not, he would take something apart and put it back together. And that was just so cool that his brain worked that way, that he was actually able to take something apart and put it back together again. And if something was broken in an Xbox, he could maybe fix it with something, some other part. I don't know, just crazy. But that was another fundamental difference between the culture in New York and the culture in Arkansas. The things that people did in New York was to hustle and to get money, and that's what they were obsessed with. In Arkansas, it was the same thing. They were obsessed with like stealing things and pawning things and yes, getting money, but also taking things apart, and I had never seen that before. I was completely shocked that people would just get kind of bent, I guess, and they would take things apart. So let me go to a story of where this goes wrong. So I might have told the story before on my channel, so I'm just gonna kind of briefly mention it here. A friend of mine, my old runner from New York, who I was hanging out with in Arkansas, had robbed this house. And he robbed this house of TV, Xbox, everything he could possibly get his hands on. I think shoes, even like nice shoes from this guy. And these guys came to look for him. They ran into me and like, we want to know where New York is, blah, 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 which is what they called him. I eventually got that nickname too when I went to jail, but I was like, who wants to know? And they're like, oh, that bitch knows, because I kind of stood up for him. And they wanted to kidnap me until they got their stuff back. And the people that I was around actually came to my defense, and they were like, no, you're not taking her anywhere. But I was mouthy. Now, they came rolling up 5 deep, you know, and they were about to pull me off of my friend's yard and kidnap me until they got their freaking Xbox back. So yeah, that's just one of the crazy stories that I have where people in my circle stealing things goes terribly wrong and it puts my life at risk. My life had been put in danger so many times, and my drug addiction actually almost cost me my life. It actually did cost me my life because I was revived with Narcan, which is a whole story time for something else. But to get back on point here, it's dangerous, and And I saw a lot more risk taking when I was in Arkansas. A lot more people were willing to break into houses, and they weren't really caring about the law. And I would see people get so scared and so paranoid, but at the same time take all of these risks, and they would rob houses, cars. I even saw someone go into TJ Maxx, and we were just walking around. I thought we were shopping, you know, and my friend, there was this jewelry counter, and the attendee, or the person that was working in the store, had left one of the things open. So he jumped across the counter and grabbed out a whole bunch of watches and like ran out of the store. And I'm like, I'm with you. Guess I'll call a cab. Like, they left me in the store. So that's the crazy shit that I would see. And it just blew my mind at how fearless they seemed. So another major difference between New York culture and Arkansas culture was that in New York, the people were more obsessed with getting the substance. But in Arkansas, because the substances are very different, H and meth, in Arkansas, people became obsessed with making the drug, not getting the drug like in New York, but making the drug, which is also so dangerous. I would see people making everything from shake and bake out of plastic soda bottles, and they just put a whole bunch of things together. I don't know the recipe, but they would put a whole bunch of things together and shake it up and create shake and bake meth, which is so dangerous. And at any point that could explode. But a lot of people were just obsessed with getting the ingredients to make this, and that is a prison sentence. If you were caught with precursors, with 3 or 4 precursors, which means ingredients to make the substance, you will get arrested and you will go to jail. They're not playing around. The thing about Arkansas was people just did not care about the ramifications of their actions. I saw so many people just completely careless, and they didn't mind going to jail. Which leads me to snitching. Now, before I get into this, let me just say, if someone breaks in your house, call 911. That's not what don't snitch means. People in New York, in my personal experience, were a little bit less likely to be so open about telling, about snitching. This is the only scenario in which that I say stop snitching, okay? If you are selling dope, or you're running and gunning and you're running in that world, and you yourself have broken the law, and then you get arrested, it is not okay to point the blame at everyone else. You need to take responsibility for your own actions and do your own time. That is my personal belief. It always has been, and it always will be. People were very open in Arkansas about who is snitching, and that didn't affect them doing business with them. No one cared. And that blew my mind. I was so shocked that people were so open about snitching. Now, in New York, if you say someone's a snitch, you need to have paperwork. You need to back that statement up. You can't just be saying like, they're snitching, like, no, you need to prove that that is an accurate thing. You need to have a statement, a motion of discovery, something to prove that that is real, because you're putting someone's life at risk if you're just running around and saying that these people are snitching, right? So in Arkansas, I will never forget what this one girl told me, ever. I can remember it like it was yesterday. She had seen me come back from interrogation and once again say, I am not going, I'll take it to trial, I'll take it to trial. Now, I had been fighting my case for 6 months. By the time I finally got a plea agreement that I would agree to, which was 5 years, I served 50% on my last bid. And I was fighting it for a long time, but I came back one time, turned down my second plea agreement, which was for 10, and she said to me, yo, New York, don't you know there are 3 kinds of people in Arkansas? And I'm like, what? She's like, yeah, those that told, those that wish they told, and those that wish they had somebody to tell on. Which one are you? I was so furious that she said that, because she was a dealer. And she had testified against the person she was buying her stuff from. That person is serving basically a life sentence in federal prison, and she only got 5 years, and she was selling 10 times more than he was. He was just a random connect that she would get sometimes. So that was really hard to see. That was really hard to know and be in that pod with her and not do something about it. I was pregnant, so what could I have done, right? But that was another big shock to the differences between the two cultures. You know, and it's not just the state difference, it's the chemical difference. People fiend for meth, and I never understood that until I was in jail, because I didn't run out. I fiend for this, you guys. On H, I was really, really sick, and I felt like my bones were breaking, and it was so hard to detox. On meth, I was so like feet. Like I can't even explain it. I was just so desperate. I had no bond. My first week in jail, actually it took me about a month to get a bond. I had no bond. I was still calling bondsmen because I was so desperate to get out. And it's like, where are you going? Nowhere. But still I'm like calling bondsmen trying to get out of jail. Like, what? They took all your money, they impounded your car, you can't even afford a lawyer, you definitely can't afford bond, also you have no bond. But that logic was just gone, you know, and I just was so desperate to get that substance. So there are so many differences between New York and Arkansas culture, and I could sit here and tell you guys stories for days, but I'm gonna end today's video here. If you are struggling with addiction, please reach out to someone that you trust for help. My friend Megan F. has recently given me a at-home counseling link, and I will leave that in the description box down below. And if you are a recovering addict, I am so proud of you. You are a warrior. I know that things are so uneasy right now, and this is a really difficult time that we are going through, but just know you are not alone. We are right here with you. I love you guys. Stay safe, stay sober, and I'll see you guys in my next one.